radio on. In the backseat, girl, with the radio on.
Hi, this is Dave Revels, and we're back with Move That Mountain. And as promised, part two of two of my favorite people. They're actors. They're successful film actors, stage actors, and television actors, and other talents as well, the behind-the-scene talents. I felt there was so much to talk about that I just couldn't do one segment. So here we are back with Kevin Craig West and Susan Spain. I love those pictures of you guys.
Oh, thank you.
They all look like professionals. Yeah. Well, we were talking about a lot of things between Kevin and Susan. First of all, they're a couple, and I like to think of them in the tradition of Ossie Davis and Ruby Dee as a working acting couple. And they did all that too. They acted, they directed, and they wrote, and all those great things. So thank you for keeping the tradition alive to see that we can work together, right?
Nice. You mentioning that kind of content.
I know.
Yeah.
Like comparison, I like it.
Well, we talked about a lot of things before, but what I'd like to get more into now is, I think acting is even tougher than being a singer, because you put so much on the line. I mean, you're creating a role that you hope somebody will believe that it has to ring true. And the other thing I've always puzzled at, probably where I haven't really tried to do it too seriously, because number one, I didn't study like you guys in school, but also the fact that I think actors somebody have to be a little intellectual, because you're taking on roles with educational sides to it. Being a scientist, being a doctor, being all these different things. You got to do some kind of background studying for that stuff, don't you?
I study for every character. Everything I do, I study for it. Whatever, if it's someone, who is not educated, someone who's educated, if they all have to have backgrounds created for them. So there's always some studying regional, dialects, if they're from a different place, or, they're all different than we are. So we have to work on all of them.
That's what I'm talking about. You have to be kind of smart. You just can't wing it, I think. So I'm fascinated by that aspect of it. But I started to say all that because that's a lot of time invested. I keep saying the word time, because you're doing a backstory in the character. You're studying the lines of the character, the emotional side of the character. You got to do, if they're a doctor, you got to read parts and read technical jargon and kind of understand it. That's a lot of time you got to invest in any role you do. Okay, well, what happens to you when, this is where now we talk about surmounting an obstacle in your life. What happens when you study so hard for a role and you go out to audition for it and you don't get it? How does that feel?
Well, you learn something you may not have known before. So, I just chalk it up to knowledge that's stored for something else. I know that there are way too many variables that go into casting someone for something. I learned it primarily from doing my own casting, and it was like, oh, okay, I get it now. But because of that, and knowing that there's so many variables, I don't take it personally.
You're a bigger man than I am, Kevin. Because to me, I can't imagine to be rejected for a part. I don't know, maybe I got to develop what you develop, but it would hurt.
It does.
And
it's hard. It is hard.
Yeah.
It can be really depressing, especially when you get that close and you just you could taste it. You knew you had that role, and there's a lot of actors in therapy because they, you have to work hard to stay happy and find the joy in it. I liken it to when things are really busy and you can have like 4 or 5 auditions a day, or 10 auditions a week. I liken it to people who have normal jobs going on job interviews every day of their lives, several job interviews every day of their lives, and maybe really wanting a job. Some of them are just sometimes we'll do it just to keep our chops up, but it can be tough.
Michael Keaton said something that I saw, when you're scrolling through the internet. That's interesting. And kind of the way you said this, I kind of get it
Mhm.
as you're saying it, Kevin, too. I'm still thin skinned, I would be. But he said, I look at auditions like I'm going to work. I'm going to work. The audition is going to work.
Mhm.
And I go to work. And I feel I got the part already because I'm going to work.
Mhm.
And if I didn't get the part, it's okay because I went to work that day. Going to the audition is going to work.
I also I do that as well. It's I consider it like 2 minutes. Even when with live auditions, when I was before everything was all on tape, I would like I've got a 2 minute gig today, so I'm gonna go in and perform for these 5 people for 2 minutes, and hopefully they'll like it and want to see an encore and or try me in something else. So I played those games with myself to help motivate myself and it not be about. I've told myself that if I go in like, oh, I've got to get this and treat it like an audition, I've got to get this job, then I'm coming in from a point of desperation. And if that's my approach, then this is like art of war thinking, then I'm already going in defeated.
You're lost. Well, that's okay. Now that makes sense to me.
And
So-
also, I love auditioning. So there's the auditions can be fun. It's if you're doing something you love doing it, even though you don't go in there expecting to get it or not get it. You never hear right back. So
Mhm.
You do this audition and you just it's done. You develop a thick skin, Dave. You really do. It's
I'll try.
yeah.
But I haven't been there. But what that is teaching me something that you have to develop that ability. But to the general person at large, it doesn't work like that, And I want to ask you something now. You are at this point now in your life, where you can accept that relationship between a casting director or an audition process. But before that, was there a time in your life where something happened that completely floored you and you had to question whether you should be an actor or whether this was for you? Did you ever encounter that moment? Because obviously you're above it.
Mhm.
But for people out there who are struggling with identity crisis or who have fallen from a moment and I haven't found the strength to get back up, I mean, how did you do it? How did you get? It must have been something that did that to you at one point, that thickened your skin initially, that made you realize that okay, I can't go there anymore. That place, I got to find a better way.
Mhm. I've had a number of things in life be those monikers that say, okay, well, if you've fallen this far, there's nowhere to go but up, or you've endured this, so nothing else can defeat you. And it again is just I guess one of those things where perspective is like changing my perspective. If I'm feeling defeated from not getting a particular job that I just knew that I had that seemed to be written perfectly for me and it doesn't happen, then it's well, maybe all of that prep was for something else. So try to find the silver lining somewhere, make lemonade out of the lemons. But I have had a number of things. I mean, I can look at any particular thing that, like, if I get a hangnail today and it bleeds, and it's like, oh my God, this is the worst hangnail ever. But then the bleeding stops. It's like, okay, well, I got through that. The bleeding stopped, and it's not as bad. And using that metaphor and applying it to just about anything has helps me get through. I mean, I'm trying to think of a particular, for instance, but yeah, it's just changing my mind to say, okay, well, it could be worse. So.
I've had a couple of instances where I've come this close to getting a Broadway show and not getting it, and the one time in particular, I knew right then and there that I didn't get it, and I went home and I binged on ice cream and chips and had a good cry, and and I gave myself maybe a few days or a week to get back in, and I did. I just, you got to jump back in. But there was a time where I felt like I wasn't at that point of success where I thought I would be at that age, and I started looking into other things, like maybe I'll go to law school. And I got the LSAT book, and I looked at this thing. I was like, okay, maybe there's something else, because this isn't going to work. But at the end of it, I just keep returning to my professor saying, if there's anything in life you think you can do and be happy doing it, do it. And there's nothing else that I can be happy doing. So, you just force yourself to pick up the pieces and pray a lot, and, and just find a way to jump back into it. And I don't, without saying how old I am, I was 28.
Awesome.
I was very fortunate to get the last role that I had on television, on my most recent TV show. And it ended up being that many people that I used to audition with were inspired by it, and people would reach out to me and ask me, how did you do this? What did you do? What can I do? And I'm so inspired by you getting that at this point in your life and your career. And that's been a huge blessing to me. I always want to help people. I've given kids like workshops on what to do, the next step to get into the business. And so, that's also inspiring, being able to inspire other people and help them, gain faith from where I am in my career. And, so yeah, there have been many mountains, and I'm still climbing. I feel like we both, had some great successes in our careers, but we're still, you got to keep working.
This is you as an artist now. See, as an artist, I think you're in a perfect position to give advice without having to say it verbally sometimes, because I think about what you guys go through. I mean, being the most powerful word I find in the English language or any language is the word no. I say it's powerful for two reasons. No is such a powerful force, or fear. Let's put no with fear. Fear in particular. The fear of failing, fear of success, fear of taking a chance. It's such a powerful force that it can literally stop you dead in your tracks. You can't move. But I've come to feel and look at fear differently, and the word no differently. I say anything that is such a powerful enough force to stop me dead in my tracks, there's only one place that belongs, and that's behind me, propelling me forward. Because anything that powerful to do this, if I put it back here, nothing can stop me.
I like that.
You understand? And so I try to live by that code. And so when I hear the word no, I kind of smile, because oh, great, I can't look forward to proving that person wrong. But what I try to say is that you've been through a lot of things. I mean, as actors, you hear the story of actors taking all kind of odd jobs just to pay the rent that week. And it's like they have no shame. And I think that's something you also can teach people if they hear more about those kind of things, because most people are too proud to do this job. I won't do that job. It's so far beneath me. But then if it means you keeping a roof over your head and food in your belly and giving you a chance, I call it greasing the wheels of your ambition. That's all jobs are, to grease the wheels of your ambitions. What are some of the odd jobs you had to take to grease the wheels of your ambition? I mean, odd things that people go, huh?
So when I went from having a nice salary and a pension and health insurance and all of those things that a 9-to-5 career provides, and jumped into possibly being a full-time waiter as an actor, I didn't want to be the full-time waiter as an actor. So I started researching, and this is pre-internet, the ability to Google everything. Just started doing research on ways to make a living. And there was a book, probably still is, 101 Tips for Actors for Jobs Outside, when you're not acting, paraphrasing the title. So I looked at that, and it was like this long list of all kinds of things that I never would have thought of, and started looking to do those things. And I was in a more rural area of doing it outside of a major acting metropolis. But those things started working. One of the things that I did, I was a reader for the blind, and it was it was fulfilling as well. It was not just income, but it helped me in my acting because I was constantly reading aloud, something that actors should always do. It's, it's practice. It's like singing, you just sing practice. I Gosh, what else did I do? Taught voiceover. I yeah, started teaching voiceover, and started teaching act. Actually, one of the first jobs that I had was teaching acting before I even learned how to act, um, which was crazy. By the same company that I started my internship with after. It was bizarre, but yeah, I looked for things to do that worked within the business, and then I also had a moving job, and I worked with a temp. I worked with a temp agency first in an office, and said, "What am I doing? I can't return to an office. That's what I left." So then I said no, and that's when I then started looking for the creative ways of earning money doing what I do.
So I like the idea. I'm gonna Google that. Google that, people. You don't have to be an actor, but Google this thing. 101 ideas to what do you call
Something
it?
like
Ways
jobs
to
for
make money.
actors to make money.
Okay, go look for that. Jobs for actors. Okay, 101 jobs. With Google anything, because the good thing about it, I don't care if you're an actor. It's important to be able to be creative in finding the money
Mm.
to put bread on the table and keep a roof over your head. So that's good. I never thought of that stuff, but that's good. Go out there and find it, and so But now we talk about roles. Let's face it. Part of this world you live in is color based. It's not color blind. It's color driven.
Mhm.
Here you are, obviously capable. I've seen that play, him at a Shakespearean company in the Berkshires in Lenox, Mass. I saw that. Very good play by Lolita Chakrabarti. See, I remember that. But the thing is, you you are capable of doing any kind of role. But let's face it, in today's society, we have not gotten past racism, which is roles that you can even audition for. There's some roles you try to audition for, you know you could do it. You're told right away, no, no, you can't be here.
Mhm.
I don't know how they couch the rejection to you now, but how does it feel when you know you could do some of those roles that white actors are doing? I'm quite sure other minorities feel the same. But how does it feel when you know you're capable of handling it, and yet you're not even looked at to go onto these roles? How does that feel? I mean,
Um, Frankly, sadly, I'm used to it. It doesn't feel good. I think the doors are starting to open up a bit more. There's more what they call non-traditional casting. Right now on Broadway is Death of a Salesman with a black cast, or primarily black cast. And there are roles that seem like they could be played by anyone that they still want to put a Caucasian actor in rather than an actor of color, which is unfortunate that they can't see that. Um, some can and some can't, and I think it's an ongoing struggle to break those barriers, to break those walls, and I I think part of creating our own work helps that too. But also seeing other people do it, I think, is going to make the world see that it's okay for it to be done by other people. And this isn't really answering your question, but I saw The Woman King a few days ago, and I've been trying to encourage people to go see that movie in the movie theaters, because one of the reasons why they don't see us doing these roles is because they fear that we don't have the money making capability, that it'll be a huge investment to put us in these roles and they won't get a return on it. And The Woman King was one of the highest grossing, if not the highest grossing movies this weekend. So I think once people see that it doesn't matter what color of the actor is that plays the character, what color the character is, you know, it's taken hundreds of years, but
Well, I've got a
it's slowly
proposition.
coming
Yeah,
around.
it's nice that I mean I do see change. Black is finally becoming the new black, and there were times when obviously, I mean, for Sidney Poitier in the heat of in the heat of the night, for him to say, "They call me Mr. Tibbs," because they're about to show that in the movies again. It's about to come back, and I thought about that line while watching the trailer for it, the impact that it had in that day. That I don't think that the line would land as powerfully today because it's not as prevalent to or not as known to be called out of your name today, or to not be called Mr. today. Um, so I think that there is change. There has been change. I think that, I mean, we see that when we leave here and get home later, I have to audition for, have to send in a tape for a lead for a film that I don't believe was written for a Black person. In fact, we met because we were in a play that was thankfully non-traditionally cast. The play was written specifically for white characters, and the director of the play, the time that we met, because the director's done it a number of times, but decided to non-traditionally cast, and we were the fortunate tokens of it. And yeah, so I do see change coming. I appreciate it. I think that there's a lot more room for more, but I think that it is also the responsibility of us as creators to do it ourselves, because there are the platforms out there now. That there was a time when there were, just the studios and the 3 networks, and there was no breaking through those gates. That's not an excuse anymore.
And
People would create their own. People would create their own work, but they wouldn't pick it up. So,
well, I got a proposition for both of you.
Okay.
My power couple,
All right.
my Ozzy Davis and Ruby D.
Mm-hmm.
Let's think of the creating this. That movie you mentioned, The Warrior, the woman, it's based on a true story.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, in history, Black history has not been told in schools or anywhere anymore. They're eliminating books all across the country that have any relevance or any or any reference to slavery. They're removing them from the school bookshelves all across the country. My proposition is this: brilliant actors as yourself, tackle Black history in Africa, people who no one knows about, bring them to life, the real Laquanda. Laquanda. I'm going to get killed for this. You know what movie I'm talking about. Right, exactly. Bring the real ones to life because they did exist. So bring them powerful so people get to see you as not only Black, but as human beings with real stories. Then maybe they can begin to see you doing roles that are not, quote, traditional for Blacks. Because Blacks, we live the rich life from Africa all over the world, where Blacks have traveled and were explorers themselves and touched lives all over the globe.
I say they were here first.
I say do that. I take a good chance of you guys. Find those historical figures, bring them to life so that other races can see the power of our history. Then maybe roles can open up. Because I think we need that addressed and not wait for some Caucasian writer to say this is deemed something we should put our money behind. And there are many theaters across the country that are struggling to keep their doors open, that may welcome an independent film project like this that'll start drawing at a small base and keep them afloat. There's always a way, just like you said, 101 ways to be an actor or to survive. Well, maybe this can work. You guys are fascinating. Your lives and the things you're doing, and the fact that you're taking on a career path that has all the pitfalls in it that we all know about, but yet you do it. Ladies and gentlemen, man, this has been pleasurable.
Thanks for having us, Dave.
If Susan Spain name pops up or Kevin Craig West name popped up anywhere, go see them. Support the arts, first of all, but go see these wonderful people. And
I think Susan's name's popping up at a Scranton, PA concert.
a small plug for Shadow of the 60s. That's a production I have. Susan, you know, is a member of that, but there she is on camera right there doing some great acting role. But we'll be in Scranton at a place called the North Theater this Saturday night in Scranton, Pennsylvania, 7 p.m. show. A lot of great music. But again, the focus is on YouTube right now. Ladies and gentlemen, again, it's been a pleasure having Kevin Craig West and his partner, Susan Spain.
Thank you.
Thank you all for coming.
Thanks, Dave.
Really appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
The way we move to our favorite song in the backseat, girl with the radio on. I am Mr. Fire. I want to feel it rolling off our bodies in the midst of the heat. The way we move to our favorite song in the backseat, girl with the radio on. In the backseat, girl with the radio on.